welcome back to Progressive Soup. Through the miracle of staying in our seats for 10 minutes, we're back. We have Gene Hislop, my co-host, David Stevenson, and Alicia Folberth. We're going to talk about...
Full birth.
Full birth. Birth. Wait, I keep saying birth.
You keep saying forebirth.
Forebirth? It's full birth.
Full birth, yes.
Full birth. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I'll figure out a way.
Of course, being born.
Ah!
There you go.
Thank you. That's fantastic. What the heck were we going to talk about in this second show again?
Well, we were going to talk about Pantheon Temple. We were going to talk about what Wicca is. We were going to talk about some of the special holidays in Wicca, which are called Sabbats, and also the role of feminism and the goddess and women's spirituality within Wicca.
That sounds like a good topic of discussion in and of itself, but go ahead.
Actually, I'd like to turn the floor over to Alicia here. What I'd kind of like to do is just, if we could just picture right now this table being the solar calendar or the lunar calendar. We are approaching Samhain. We talked about that last episode, which is the final harvest, I believe it is, in the Celtic calendar. What would the next holiday in Wicca be?
Actually, Yule.
Yule. And what is Yule?
Well, a lot of people know it as Christmas. Yule is a celebration of the winter solstice. And, you know, many of the trappings that we have at Christmas time are very much carried over from Yule traditions, such as things like, you know, bringing evergreens into the house, you know, caroling. Yes.
Interesting.
Going from door to door.
And some say even Santa has roots in Odin. Is that correct?
Yes. Seeing also, too, that Odin is the granter of wishes. And although it really has no historical basis, I'll tell you, though, in terms of ancestral memory, Sleipnir, the Odin's horse, has 8 legs.
This is the god, the Norse god Odin?
Yes. And, you know, I realized that, you know, when you look at the reindeer sideways, it almost looks like they have 8 legs because they're side by side. And I said, you know, that looks very much alike. Of course, it has no historical relation, but, you know.
It just has that kind of look about it.
Yes, it does.
It makes some sense.
That might be a tie.
Yeah. I think you know, one of the things that we're looking at, too, when we look at the Sabbats is that we're kind of looking at overlapping traditions. You have the 4 Celtic fire festivals, which are Samhain, which we had mentioned, Imbolc.
Yeah.
Okay, we have Beltane.
Beltane, yeah.
We have Lunasa. So that those are the 4 fire festivals. Now, intersecting those are actually called the Lesser Sabbats. The Celtic fire festivals are called the Greater Sabbats. And they're actually, the Lesser Sabbats are the solstices and the equinoxes, but they're more Germanic or Norse-based. So you notice a little overlapping theme that even though we have the 8 Sabbats, it's almost kind of like we're celebrating winter, winter, spring, spring, summer, summer, fall, fall, and we really actually are.
Oh, so you're dividing up a season into two half seasons.
Well, in some sort of a sense, but the thing is, you know, we are taking from 2 separate pagan cultures, and they have become incorporated into ours. One
of whom was a conqueror of the other, which might explain a little bit of that overlap, because the Norman, Norse, and such did invade.
I know why.
Is
actually.
this the Battle of Hastings, 1066, the Normans and the Saxons? In a historical sense,
I have no idea.
Because my mother, my mother actually traced our family back to the Battle of Hastings.
Oh wow,
that's cool.
1066 A.D.
So where does that overlap?
What does it mean to me? Not much, but she had a lot of fun doing it.
Well, we all have our little pedigrees.
Oh yes,
but yeah, actually, one of the reasons why we celebrate it in Wicca now is because Gerald Gardner, who really is the reason for Wicca in its modern sense, decided that he would celebrate the 4 fire festivals, the 4 Celtic fire festivals. It was actually his coven that decided they also too wanted to celebrate the solstices and the equinoxes, and so therefore they were added.
So now we have an 8-holiday calendar within modern Wicca. In other words, the original Celtic pagan tradition, and we're talking the ancient way that they practiced it, was with the 4 fire festivals.
This is what would date back to prior to
Christianity. Yes.
Oh yes,
okay,
quite.
They had the 4 fire festivals. Then Gerald Gardner, refresh me, do you remember what year that was in that he started his tradition?
It was the 1950s.
In the 1950s.
Yeah.
You know, he was really, he'd done some research and such. He actually founded, they say, modern Wicca as we know it. Of course, there were rivals. There are a lot of people who were involved with it at that time who then enlarged upon it themselves. But that's how we come up with the calendar. So following Yule, we have next up Imbolc. And what is Imbolc?
Imbolc is another one of the Celtic fire festivals, and this one is definitely devoted to a goddess breed. Some people may know her as Saint Bridget. She's also remembered when people walk down the aisle, and this is one of the things that the people don't even understand, is that our modern custom of weddings is actually Druidic in origin.
Could that possibly be where the term bride comes from?
Yes, absolutely.
It is also where the wedding ring comes from.
So
the idea of eternity?
It's a circle.
Yeah.
They used to do hand fastings, tie ribbons around each other's arms.
This is fascinating to hear about all these things that, that people normally have no idea. Well, that's how it is. You know how parents will say to their kids, because we're learning the because of a lot of things right now. That's great. You know, that there's even,
there's lots of things that are still present in our culture that we don't even think about anymore. I mean, you can trace back words, even the etymology of them. But, just let's say things like there's been a taboo against eating horse flesh. We don't do that in this culture.
Right. In France, there was a lot of that post-World War II. You are quite likely to go into a restaurant and rather be served beef, you'd be served horse.
Right.
And I was there in the 60s a couple of times with my mom, and that's how I know that.
But it's a taboo
But it's still here. That was a carryover.
Yeah.
People don't think about those things. Yes, they are, effectively pets. They're not just seen as being, work animals anymore. But, aside from the fact that they were very valuable, people did by and far not eat horse meat. Those are still stemming from old beliefs. People will still throw coins in a well. Again, there's an older custom there too. Just even like in those the peat bogs, they keep digging up. There were a lot of people that made many offerings into those peat bogs.
Would that be monetary offerings? What kind of offerings?
A craftsperson would potentially create something to be worthy of the gods.
Oh, okay.
And not even necessarily to be worn ever by a human being. And it would be something that would be the best work that they could ever possibly do.
You see often in those magazines like gold torques, which were actually something that the kings would wear, the torques.
Well, that was a freeborn. If you were a freeborn Celt, and a man, you would wear a torque.
I had never thought of the term witchcraft in terms of being a craft, as in a craftsperson.
That too.
Yeah.
Gerald Gardner was a Blue Lodge Mason.
Oh.
And that is the reason why we have the 3 degrees in Wicca.
Because of the Masonic traditions.
Yes.
Oh,
some of that was actually brought forward into Wicca, some of those beliefs.
Huh.
But, how do you define a craft? If a craft is something that you must study and then apply, and if it's artistic and it comes from the soul,
something an artist
then I would say witchcraft is very much a craft.
It's something that comes from the heart that you do your very best at, and take it beyond just an ordinary, in the case of tool making, take it beyond the ordinary and take it to the level of not just being util, but also being artistic.
And that's very much what the craft is. It's
non-creative people would not be drawn to this. I don't see too many witchcraft accountants. There are a few, but there aren't too many.
Or if there are people who are drawn to it for a time. That's why, unfortunately, these, if you go into the aisles to do with spirituality, occult, and such in Barnes & Noble or Borders, you'll see book after book after book after book after book, and they're all regurgitated spells that somebody else has written that then people go out and buy because they want to attract money. That's not the essence of witchcraft.
So a lot of not false idols, but false practitioners.
That too.
They're looking for an easy way.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that I don't know. They are drawn to the trappings that they believe we have. They are drawn to, I think, whatever strange pop culture concept they have of it. When they find out it's something else entirely different, they usually, in some sense, reject it. I think that there's a lot of spiritual seekers out there, but I think there's a lot of people that are just in there for the party.
Yeah.
You know,
it's the observation of the month club.
Right.
Well,
But this month we're going to check this methodology out, and next month we'll find something new to latch onto for a little bit.
I think more than that, a lot of people are looking for a thrill, and magic can be a thrill. And I mean, really, let's define magic. Magic is
an active form of prayer.
Exactly. And so when I go to a Christian church and I watch an evangelical Christian talking about how they prayed and what they prayed came true and thank the Lord, and they're very excited about that, that's a universal kind of feeling and hope that people have.
I'm healed!
You know, but it's a universal desire that people have to have their will come true. And therefore, you know, when people do magic and then what they will has come true, that same sense of people can get addicted to that feeling of power. And so there are a lot of pagans and Wiccans who I have met in my younger years and such, who get hooked on that aspect, and they're not developing spiritually along
what the heck is magic anyway? Isn't it maybe sort of the ability to achieve an end result to impress other people?
No. It's not for that. That would be stage magic.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's how people perceive magic to be.
I know,
it's
but
something that you do
it's
to impress people.
No, you don't use it for that. It is sacred.
There's actually like a code to dare, to will, to know, to be silent. That is very
powers of the magus. Yeah.
So, in other words, when you do magic, I liken it to when Jesus is talking about the way to pray. Okay, in the Bible, where he gives the Lord's Prayer, he says, if you go to pray alone. Do not, tell people, just go alone and pray to God directly. Very similar. Magic is something you do by yourself or with your coven or with your, partner. It is a private prayer, and it is not used to boast.
Well, it's just a little bit different because, it's an active form of prayer. We fully recognize that we are co-creators with the universe. And so we are actively working with those powers that be to bring about change. When I usually see prayer, referred to, people are usually referring to it as a more passive form of prayer, where they're asking for something to happen. They're not actually bringing it about. It's not to say that the prayers can't be answered. It's just a very different way of going about it.
It certainly is.
I don't want to get into a realm where I say one is more effective than the other by any means, because I'm a Unitarian Universalist, so it would be bad form. But I think that
not cricket, huh?
It would not be very and I don't believe that one form is one religion is superior to the other. I believe that we all are finding our way, but I think pagan prayer, Wiccan prayer, differs from Christianity in the fact of it's one thing to go to your creator and say, do this for me. It's like that joke that you hear. I remember growing up that joke. The guy is stranded in the middle of the ocean. He says, "Please, God, save me." And he calls. A speedboat passes him by, and he says, "No thanks, God's saving me." Then a helicopter comes. He says, "No thanks, God's going to save me." And then somebody swims out to him, and he says, "No thanks, God's going to save me." And then he drowns because he didn't actually. That was God's way of reaching out.
Yeah.
Pagans and Wiccans. If you just say, "Goddess" or "God, do this for me," and you don't actually do it, in other words, if you're asking, to become wealthy or even financially secure, and you don't actually make the steps forward to go out and look for an interview, in addition to those things that you're doing in the spell, which basically just keep it focused in your brain, then that is not going to happen.
So you've got to be proactive about what you're doing, and likewise, I see religion as being whatever you can find, whatever means you can find to be a better person is what I define as being religion, and that's why any religion can help you, if you want, use it as a vehicle to be better to other people, to be more respectful of yourself, and just be a better person in general.
Indeed.
Does this fit
yes.
Wicca also?
Oh, yes.
Okay. So is it unfair to think of Wicca as being a religion then?
No, it is a religion. It is a religion. It's just, I think, just so different, I think, from what most other people expect a religion to be. That because it is different, I think that there's automatically a stigma, sometimes a fear attached to it because it's not understood. In this day and age, though, we have the internet. And, if people really want to, they can find out more. The information may not be perfect because, hey, it is the internet.
Yeah, but it is like Wikipedia or...
Yeah.
Or, well, there you go, Wicca.
I believe there is one out there.
In Wikipedia, I guess it's kind of
I would imagine.
facts by popular acclamation.
But
people kind of vote on what they perceive as being reality, and the one with the most votes wins.
Right.
But the Pantheon Temple's on Wikipedia, and Odyssean Tradition is on Wikipedia.
Odyssean Tradition, what's that?
That's the tradition that I'm formally studying now. And it's a tradition that comes out of Canada from my elders, Tamara and Richard James. They're the founders of it, and it's also the tradition that's practiced at the Wiccan Church of Canada. They have 2 temples up there, one in Toronto and one in Hamilton.
Hamilton's out west?
No. Hamilton's like,
Detroit.
I think about an hour and 45 minutes away from Toronto. At least it was when I was in traffic.
Okay. So depending upon these other factors.
Yeah, Toronto's a 12-hour trip for me. So
yeah.
So let's talk a little bit more about the Pantheon Temple. We were talking about the solar calendar and the lunar calendar as far as the Sabbats. And by the way, the lunar observances are Esbats, correct? Yeah. Now, your temple, I mean, obviously we already mentioned in our first show that you will be having an open Samhain event on October 23rd. What time does that begin?
6 o'clock.
And that's located at Schreiber's Farm, correct?
Yes, in Oxford.
In Oxford. And there will be a huge hayride, bonfire, drum circle, wonderful celebration. And then that is also the location of the biggest festival of the year.
Yeah, for Beltane.
For Beltane. Now, describe Beltane a little bit for.
Wow. Beltane, a Pagan Odyssey, is a large festival that we do every year. We invite in many elders, authors, leaders, respected people to come in and present on various topics. We have musical acts. We have many rituals. There's always something to be experienced constantly all weekend. That one's really easy to find. People, if they spell it properly, if they write paganodyssey.org or .com, either one, they'll be able to find it. And it's hoped that eventually we'll be able to build the festival to the point where we can really start putting money away for our land fund. because that is the one thing our temple lacks, is that we lack land and a building. They're very expensive.
True that, yeah. Maybe I'll try and understand that. But it seems like some of the basics that you have involved there seem like, a very fun way to gain a little knowledge without feeling like you're going into a school situation.
Oh, absolutely. A lot of people, when they come to Beltane, it's not like there's anything rigid. People just go to whatever they want.
The drum circle sounds fascinating.
Yeah.
The drum circle is great. There's a Burning Man, which have you ever
the Burning
seen?
Man, like the one out in Arizona.
Yes, only it's much smaller than that.
Much smaller scale.
Yes, but they do build a
the bonfire.
What do they call that?
We kind of banish Old Man Winter.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
A lot of good symbolism.
There is, and of course the maypole. Everybody knows what the maypole
dance,
which is a traditional fertility rite that's also celebrated, and that's something that school kids today practice without realizing the pagan roots of it. And thank goodness they don't realize the fertile.
Oh my God! If the schools found out that, the parents would descend upon the schools, and
it would be
I was thinking
crazy.
you mentioned about it being during the 50s that I've forgotten his name now. But
Gerald Gardner.
Gerald Gardner began this thing, and thinking about the fact that the 50s in the United States and how the Army McCarthy trials, and what do they describe them as being in retrospect? A witch hunt.
Witch hunt, yeah.
So the concept of witches was very much in the air back then in a lot of respects, it sounds like.
It was, but things were happening in the UK. Once they actually repealed the witchcraft laws in Britain, that was when a whole lot of people came out of the broom closet, if you will.
Oh. Talk about it coming out.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, there are actually other traditions that are not Gardnerian, and if you do any real looking on the internet, you'll find out about those too.
So let's bring this back into focus as far as what are the practices. I wanted to touch a little bit about the role of feminism and sacred feminine, divine feminine within Wicca. In my experience, that has been what has drawn a lot of people to the Wiccan way, is because most mainstream religions are very patriarchal focused, and people seem to be hungering for a feminine touch in their lives, feminine power.
It's kind of interesting to me because, although I came from a family that was religious, I myself was not exposed to a lot of churchianity. So...
Churchianity, that's a pretty clever term.
I'm going to call that churchianity because I think it's something that's different than Christianity. But we have an awful lot of Catholics amongst people that have decided to become Wiccan or pagan. I think that a lot of people, maybe they had liked the ritual, but they had other issues, obviously, with the former religion. But there's a little interesting dynamic there, is the whole concept of Mary. That really what happened is that when they even built on the old pagan temple sites, the cathedrals in Europe, every single one of them was dedicated to Mary. The common people would not give up their goddess. And I think in that sense, a lot of people who are modern Catholics, they don't want to give up Mary either. They don't want to give up the goddess.
Now, which Mary is this? Is this Mary, Jesus' mother, or Mary Magdalene?
Well, listen to her titles. Mother of God, Queen of Heaven. I mean, think about these things. These are very interesting titles that are being given to somebody who is supposedly a mere human.
It's really a divination of a human. Of a human, you're right.
So she still is the goddess. She still is the mother of God. And for us, although many of us are dyed-in-the-wool polytheists, myself included, many people are also seeing the dynamic of having not just God, but goddess and God. That there has to be that polarity, just as like you need a man and a woman to make a baby. This is the process of creation, these powers of the universe.
So, is it to be assumed that, again, not wanting to step on the toes of other major religions, that possibly people's dissatisfaction with life and society as we know it and have known it for so many years is actually giving a rebirth to goddess-centered religions? And
definitely. I don't think I completely answered your question before. I think that with also to the women's movement, which also kind of coincided at the same time with the new pagan movement that was out there, a lot of women were drawn into goddess spirituality. And I think that, there's a real hunger out there for that. I think that there's a real need for us to feel fulfilled spiritually as women. And I think really, the role, the spiritual role, has been for men. It has not been for women until really fairly recently. But to enter into Wicca means that you automatically enter into a religion that respects the feminine divine. Mm-hmm. That is very much present. That woman is not lower than man. This is very much differs greatly from patriarchal religions.
The most of which being Catholicism.
Well,
that's been the most patriarchal of all.
Even in Hebrew tradition, there's actually a prayer that would be said in the morning to just say, thank God I wasn't born a woman, and that's a horrible statement for a woman to have to say in a prayer.
And Islam is definitely not a very matriarchal religion either. It's a very, very patriarchal. So, would it be safe to say that if Wicca were the dominant religion, what do you think we would see more of or less of in this world?
I think we'd see a whole lot less war. I think we'd see a whole lot more acceptance. I think we would probably see things running more smoothly because, in a sense, when women start working together, things change. If you even look at matriarchal culture, things run pretty darn smoothly. People are very concerned over their families, their children, and I think there's definitely a lot less emphasis on temporal power.
That's a great thought to end on. Our time is up.
One quick plug again, please look for Reverend Alicia Folberth, Alicia Lyon Folberth. Actually, you can find her on Facebook.
I'm the only Alicia Folberth, I promise.
Not Lyon.
Yes, Lyon actually. Yes. And you can also find Pantheon Temple online on Facebook and find that Samhain Festival coming up October 23rd, Schreiber's Farm, 7 p.m. Was it? Or 6 p.m. Schreiber's
Don't want to miss the hayride.
Don't miss the hayride.
Progressive Soup.
Thank you very much.
We'll get our soup bowls back next time.
Blessed Samhain.